Hello, I'm Danielle Yawowiecka with the BBC News. Iran says it'll resume enriching uranium at an underground site south of Tehran. This would be a major breach of the nuclear deal that the country struck with the US, the Europeans and others. Alan Johnston reports.
The Iranian President Hassan Rouhani said gas would be injected into more than 1,000 centrifuge devices at what's called the Fordow plant, activating the uranium enrichment process there. This constitutes a further violation of technical agreements in the international accord that aim to curb Iran's nuclear program. The Iranians began breaking commitments they made earlier this year, following President Trump's decision to abandon the agreement. The US has imposed sweeping sanctions on Tehran in an effort to pressure it into renegotiating the accord.
Relatives of an American Mormon family ambushed by a suspected drug cartel in northern Mexico say at least 9 people died in the attack, including 6 children and their mothers. They say some had burned to death after their car caught fire. The victims belonged to the LeBaron family, part of a breakaway Mormon community. Vanessa Buschluter has more details.
What we know is that a group was travelling from one town to another town to visit relatives, and they were travelling in 3 SUVs. And it seems like they were ambushed by a drugs gang. It's not quite clear whether one of the cars was ambushed first. This one car had a puncture, apparently, and the other 2 cars had gone back to the nearby town to get help. But what we know is that in that first car, that mother with the 4 children was killed. They were shot at, and then the vehicle was either set alight or caught fire when the hail of bullets hit it.
The president of Mali has urged people to unite behind the country's army following the jihadist attacks that have killed around 50 soldiers over the last week. He said the stability and the very existence of the country were at stake. Our Africa regional editor Will Ross reports.
Ibrahim Boubacar Keita's call for people to unite behind the army and not to undermine its morale comes at a time when there's growing anger that the highly mobile jihadists appear to be winning the war, and not for the first time. 7 years ago, Islamist militants seized most of northern Mali, a move that prompted France to intervene. Thousands of French troops are still in the region, but along with soldiers from several West African armies, they've been unable to stop the attacks by the Islamic State in the Greater Sahara and al-Qaeda-linked jihadists.
The Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan says Kurdish forces are still active in northern Syria, despite agreeing to leave under deals brokered by Russia and the United States. Turkish and Russian troops have begun their second joint ground patrol near the town of Kobani in northern Syria. World News from the BBC. The European Union's top court has ruled against judicial reforms in Poland that fuelled street protests. The Conservative government said the changes in 2017 were needed to streamline the courts and clear away the communist legacy. But the European Court of Justice said Poland had breached equality laws by introducing differing retirement ages for judges on a gender basis. The reforms have since been rescinded. France is to introduce quotas on migrant workers from outside the European Union for the first time next year. The Labour Minister, Muriel Pénicaud, said on French television that the restrictions would be set next summer. She said the government would draw up a list of jobs covered by the new rules in the coming months. The French Prime Minister, Édouard Philippe, is due to announce on Wednesday new limits on welfare benefits for migrants. Nearly 500 inmates have been released from prisons in Oklahoma in a single day after what's being described as the biggest mass reduction of sentences ever in the United States. Many were serving long jail terms for crimes that had been downgraded under a new law. These women were among those released and reunited with their children.
I've been out of her life for 3 years, but she's my hope. She's never given up on me.
I'm very blessed to let this happen and for this to happen to me and my family, and I'm just so glad to see my family.
Oklahoma locks up more people per capita than any other US state in a country that has the highest incarceration rate in the world. The first Nigerian film to be submitted to the Oscars, Lionheart, has been disqualified from the Best International Feature Film category. The Academy said it had too much dialogue in English to be considered for the award. The film's director, Genevieve Naji, has criticised the decision, saying Nigerians used English as a bridge between different languages. She said the film represented the way people spoke in her country. BBC News.